Hey everyone, Dan Scott here, and I'd like to talk some more about this revelation concerning the watch times, also called the beguarding times of the night. And we find a very interesting verse in Psalms chapter 119, verse 148 that reads, "My eyes come before," meaning in anticipation, in foresight, the beguarding times which are the same watch times, to ponder in your speaking word. However, those whose eyes do not come before the beguarding times to ponder them, days will come when then you will desire to perceive one of the plural days of the Son of the human, and not will you eye it. So why would it be important for us to ponder the watch times, as once possessing foresight? Well, for one thing, this involves the coming of the thief, but more importantly, the coming of the Lord of the house, being that great house, 2 Timothy 2:20. And the context of his coming is not a one-time event. It's not limited to one or the other watch times, but his coming involves events that will unfold according to each of the watch times, each according to his own order, 1 Corinthians 15:23. And understand that in conjunction with the coming of the Lord is the coming of the Antichrist, the thief. So in the broadest sense, the watch times span those years, commonly understood as the prophetic last week of Daniel, which can be summarized in the term the eon of the eon, Hebrews 1:8, which expression in the Old Testament is eonian and testifying time. And without going off on a long rabbit trail or another study, simply understand that which is eonian concerns things which are concealed, not according to things that can be revealed to our understanding through the Word of God, but things that are concealed from the understanding of those who are not seeking God. However, that which is testified to, according to the testifying time, are things that are openly manifested to all. So that which is eonian, and that which is a testifying time is a testifying time. Again, summarizing the beguarding times of the night, encompassing those transitional years from the present eon into the new eon of a new heavens and new earth, where originating events are according to the early hours, the eventide first watch time. And not only will Christ be unveiled, but so will this lawless one be unveiled, where we read in 2 Thessalonians chapter 2, verse 9, whose presence or parousia is according to the inworking of Satan, with every ability and with signs and wonders of falsification. And if you haven't already watched my video, The Second Coming, where I discuss the word parousia, translated presence here, because not only have many failed to understand the context of what the parousia of the Lord's coming is, according to the definition of the word, many have failed to recognize that the context of parousia here in 2 Thessalonians 2:9 is speaking of the lawless one, his parousia, which of course is antithesis to the coming of the Lord, but it's in conjunction with the coming of the Lord also, in relationship to these watch times. So understand that according to the parousia of the Lord, he is going to come along beside his possessions, not come to rapture them into heaven, but to provide slackening and safeguarding from the lawless one, that they may be guarded unblameably, body, soul, and spirit, in the hours that lead into the midnight event. While at the same time, the lawless one is going to do the same according to his possessions, whose parousia is according to the inworking of Satan with every ability and with signs and wonders of falsification, and with every deceit of unrighteousness among those being wholly loosened away then, because they did not receive the love of the truth beforehand for their being saved. And the then here, according to the wholly loosened away ones, points to the midnight hour when the doors will be shut, and then they will stand outside, "Lord, Lord, open to us," where prior to midnight will be two orders of resurrections, that being eventide and those who are of the Christ in his parousia. See my video, 3 resurrection orders. And although it could make for another video, understand that the parable of the 10 virgins is not a resurrection at midnight. It's a taking up in glory for those who were previously revealed in flesh, 1 Timothy 3:16. Of course, for those who had oil prepared, which context of midnight to Cox's voice is the great affliction. It is the great day of judgment, Jude verse 6. When Jesus said, "Woe to these and woe to those," this was what he was referring to. He was referring to the whole away loosening. However, many things are going to begin occurring at the eventide hour at 6 o'clock p.m., long extending into midnight, again including 2 orders of the resurrection. So this is why we want our eyes to come before the beguarding times to ponder in his speaking word. So now let's consider 2 parallel verses concerning the coming of the thief, where here in Matthew 24:43, Jesus mentions watch time. However, right here in Luke 12:39, in the address to the small herdlet, it concerns the hour, not the watch time, but the hour. Where also the dwelling site is contrasted with the house, where one is feminine and the other masculine. And the reason for these differences are because one accords with one watch time and the other another watch time. And the reason Jesus addresses the small herdlet according to the hour is because the context of who Jesus is speaking to are those among the world's population who will be alive at this time, according to the terms, leading into and having their origin at the first watch time, which much more could be said, but this is why there's an absence of a first watch time in Luke 12:38. And because the first 3 watch times correspond with 3 orders of resurrection, you have to understand that the coming of the Lord at eventide accords with a unique class of resurrection, where I could show you examples where the learning ones of Jesus did not understand what this resurrection entailed, of which I'll also say most of Christianity today also do not understand according to the first to enter the wedding feasts, of which first watch time is not the answer to what kind of watch time the thief comes. No, the first watch time involves what Jesus terms a preceder delegation. Luke chapter 14 verses 31 and 32, which I'll discuss more detail in another video. And the small herdlet of Luke 12, who Jesus states, if you had perceived in what kind of an hour the thief comes, why is he calling them small as in a small quantity in number? Well, because according to the unveiling of the lawless one is apostasy, 2 Thessalonians 2:3. And the apostasy will be largely due to what will occur at eventide according to this unique class of resurrection, which most will not understand what had occurred. So the statement of Paul here, unless the apostasy comes before and the man or the human of lawlessness is unveiled, provides clues as to the answer of what kind of watch time the thief comes, which can't be third watch time because, again, the whole away loosening is from midnight into 3 a.m. Cock's voice. And the lawless one being termed the son of the whole away loosening has to involve those according to the second order of the resurrection, according to the inworking of error that has to be given time to inwork, to whole away loosen those at the midnight hour. And if there's a preceder delegation where it states still distantly from him, that being Satan in accord with the parousia of the lawless one, according to the inworking of Satan, with every ability and signs and wonders, etc., again, still distantly from him. It's most likely that the watch time involving the unveiling of the lawless one, the thief, whose parousia is according to the inworking of Satan, the ulterior regent, would make the coming of the thief into the second watch time. Again, in conjunction with the second order of the resurrection for those who are of the Christ in his parousia, where those according to the inworking of error will be according to the parousia of the lawless one, who go into a resurrection into judgment, which inworking of error has its context according to the hours of 9 into midnight, the second watch time, where those who are according to the parousia of the Lord in his coming by to serve go into the surround of safeguarding. 1 Thessalonians chapter 5, verse 9. And the larger context of the 2 watch time resurrections are seen in John chapter 5 here, which you should pause and examine very carefully because we see those who hear on the voice of the Son of God, but others who will hear on the voice of the Son of the human. And unlike those who will hear on the voice of the Son of God to become manifested sons of God according to the sons of the resurrection read in Luke 20:36, others will not. Do not marvel at this, since the hour comes in which all who are in the sepulchres hear on his voice, that is, the voice of the Son of the human, who will be themselves human, both among the good and the malicious, according to the judgment authority, verse 27, where the others do not come into judgment, verse 24, where the stepping further also pertains to their possessing Aeonian life, as read in verse 26, because the life that's in the Father and in the Son are also in these. And as for those who go into life, looks into the midnight hour, when the sober-minded who had prepared oil will enter the wedding feast to then be equal to angels, among that order of the resurrection, where they were previously revealed in flesh, but then will be taken up in glory, not resurrected into glory, but taken up in glory, subsequent to their first being revealed in flesh. 1 Timothy 3:16, where part of the uniqueness of the first resurrection is that they are not revealed in flesh first. And as for the malicious at the second watchtime resurrection, this involves what is termed the inworking of error that God sends, 2 Thessalonians 2:11, which this error is inworking in them up into the midnight, when they will be wholly loosened away, locked out at midnight. And so much more could be said and shown in the Word of God. But in closing this video, let me point out that I realize that most Christians today do not perceive the context of the first order of the resurrection, which is according to a deciding factor into those who are deemed accordingly worthy to attain to such, to be among the holy ones, the holy angels that will be dispatched according to a preceder delegation, according to those termed officiating spirits, Hebrews chapter 1, verse 14, who are first to enter the wedding feast, where the second will enter at midnight. But the lack of understanding in the church today will bring apostasy when these events begin to unfold at eventide, where according to the coming of the Lord for those at eventide, there will not be a great visible victorious procession. Luke chapter 17, verse 20. However, it will not go unnoticed, and many, especially in the Christian 501c3 organizations, will fear and then apostatize. But not all. And those Jesus addresses as small herdlet, who he says, "Fear not, you small herdlet," Luke chapter 12, verse 32, where again there is the absence of the first watch time in verse 38, will be a small in number group of people, in contrast to those apostatizing and to attending to errorizing spirits and the teachings through demons, where the small herdlet will need to turn to Luke chapter 12, verses 32, and heed what Jesus is saying as read through to verse 48, that they may become prepared for what is coming into the second watch time, that they too then may enter among the sober virgins in the middle of the night, but not before the Lord comes in his parousia to serve them. So, dear brothers and sisters, I hope you now perceive in what kind of watch time the thief comes, and what kind of hour, because what kind it is a resurrection kind. However, it's not the first order of the resurrection, which also needs to be perceived, that you're not one who is apostatizing. 1 Timothy chapter 4, verse 1. And if we don't begin to ponder the watch times, one's dwelling site will be dug through. So I sincerely pray and hope that your eyes, come before the beguarding times, the watch times, to ponder in his speaking word.